It is that time where we get to talk about stuff, the official term. It is a Friday, which means one thing. We always get to start Friday off one way and one way in particular. So let's hit it.
Come on, man. Go for it, dude.
It's Friday! Friday!
Friday here on SDH AM. John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by as you always do. We got a lot of topics to get into today. We're going to be getting a lot of visits from a lot of folks. So here is something of an official rundown. Our friend Ali Howorth is going to join us here in a couple of minutes. He'll be opening kickoff. We're going to break down the continued Africa football influence in the World Cup. We'll go over what he's seen. We'll go over what he's going to be seeing. Talk about Cabo Verde and Argentina tonight. We'll get into that from Ali's perspective here, bat and lead off in a sec. Then we're going to get a little help doing the review portion of the program. Somebody called a shot yesterday, and he said, I'm coming back in. And I said, okay, fine. 9:30 or 10:30? And he said 9:30. So we're going to get a visit from our buddy Nino Torres. He's going to come back in, considering that he said what he said. And so that'll start the review portion of the program. 10 o'clock, Ramses Sandoval is going to join us. He's been a very busy man. And we'll find out just how busy and what it's been like for him to be calling the Worldly Tournament. We'll catch up with him at 10 o'clock, Pride of Pomona, California. As a Lakewood guy, I have to say he's a Pride of Pomona. And then at 10:30, we'll get you over everything that we might have missed in the first 90 minutes. We got a lot of news to get into. And just to kind of show you the news that we got to get into, literally, here's the rundown that I have, and you see how incredibly put together this thing is. Literally, if there's a story that gets added, it gets added on the sheet. And if there's something that I talked about, I cross it off. There's a lot to talk about. So we ain't wasting no time. And the way that we do things here, opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee, blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend, made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy body, notes of walnut, semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Take a breath. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com, which means that we believe in proper hydration. And we're going to check and see if our friend Ali Howorth is properly hydrated to kick. He's adding stuff. You've got you're getting a studio developed here now. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, my brother and sister-in-law who I'm staying with are not very grateful, but I'm very much turning their guest room into my own personal studio. And I'm built. You've inspired me, John. I'm building up to what you've got in your background. Give me a couple months and I'll be there.
You got it, brother. And if I need to ship anything your way, just let me know. We'll sit there. We'll stack your space, man. That'll be the easy part. First and foremost, when do you head back to England?
So I am here in the States until after the round of 16, and then I fly back.
Okay. So after this weekend, are you heading out and catching other things, or are you going to be anchored there in the family casa for the remainder?
No, very much just staying here. I'm looking forward to having my first 4th of July experience here in Atlanta, and looking forward to spending some time with them before I have to head back home.
Okay, so then that means we'll probably be smashing your door down another couple of times before you get out of here, just as we continue to break things down. Do you want to go to the review portion of the program first, or the preview portion of the program first?
Let's start with the review. I think it's always good to look back before you look forward.
All right. So then when you look at the impact that African football has made in this tournament, and here in Atlanta, we've gotten the chance to see, DR Congo up front and center, and a lot of folks fell in love with what they were able to witness there. Just as an example, when you look at the impact that African teams have had in this tournament, what sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I think the Atlanta's been a little bit of a fortress for the African nations until DRC lost to England, and South Africa got a result here. Morocco won. Cape Verde got that famous result against Spain. So I think the African nations really like Atlanta for some reason. In terms of, I guess the reflections are. Look, it was an amazing achievement for 9 of the 10 teams to get out of the group stage to reach the knockouts, and I think that was unprecedented. Prior to that, we'd only ever had 2 teams out of 5 make it out, so I think what it's pointed to is the amazing strength and depth of the African continent, and the fact that we've been crying out for this for ages. I think we've spoken about it before, how we've wanted this for so long, proper representation. I think the round of 32 showed us a couple other things. It shows that whilst the African nations can compete with pretty much everyone, we're still, with the exception of really Morocco, and Senegal's a bit of an exceptional case at this tournament. But with the exception of those two, can't really crack those top teams. There's still a ways to go, and I think for me, in some ways, I'm always a bit of a generous analyst, particularly to the nations that I cover. But I would give a lot of these countries a pass, because for a lot of these countries, it's either their first time at the World Cup, their first time back at the World Cup in a long time. A lot of these countries don't have experience, and I think experience is a really, really big deal when it comes to tournament football. I think you build institutional memory, and I think that's what this World Cup is about for a lot of these countries. So I'm very, very impressed overall. If we come back to the next World Cup and only one team makes it past the round of 32, obviously we still got 3 African nations play today, I will be disappointed. But for this World Cup, I think it's a great showing.
So then I guess this is the question for you when it comes to, okay, how do we take that next step to where consistency is there on the world stage? It's not, I mean, for those of us who are, the in-depth guys like you, and for us sickos who learn from in-depth guys like you about what's going on, what's the next step that has to be done in these nations? And this might end up being a case-by-case thing where it's different from one to the other. But what needs to be done so consistency is there on the world stage and it's not just this blip as a part of a bell curve?
Yeah, I think some things will naturally lead to a bit more consistency. I think, yeah, having the kind of more, not guaranteed of being at the World Cup, but the fact that it's easier to qualify means that you can you're not investing so much just to get there. I think an underrated thing is the fact that the Africa Cup of Nations will be moved to every 4 years instead of every 2 years. A deeply, deeply unpopular move, by the way, including by myself. I think it's a terrible decision, and one that is more CAF just trying to suck up to FIFA than anything else. But what that means is one of the problems with having the AFCON every 2 years. It's such a brilliant, brilliant tournament. But the problem with it is it means that nations are basing their kind of 4-year cycle. In Europe, you have a 4-year cycle between, World Cup to World Cup. Yes, you might have Euros in between, but in Africa, you've got 2 AFCONs in there. So if you have a bad AFCON showing, your coach is out the door. There's that pressure. So I think there's some things that will naturally, I think, allow for that kind of rhythm, that continuity. I think for a lot of the federations is about kind of waking up and smelling the coffee. I think if they want to get past it, because I think the one nation that you think have nailed it already is Morocco, and other nations can look at them and say, what has Morocco done? Morocco have invested billions into their football infrastructure. They've invested so much into their kind of infrastructure, their scouting networks, their recruitment, their training facilities, and not just kind of from an elite level, but right through to the grassroots level. And yes, very few of the countries at this World Cup can invest that kind of money. But you're looking at these countries, they're making what, 20-25 million dollars just from being here, just from the prize pool, let alone sponsorships, investment. So for South Africa is a good example. They were meant to build an elite technical center off the back of qualifying for the 2010 World Cup, and there was a declaration that they couldn't do it because they didn't have enough money, and they said, look, it's going to cost us 600 million rand, which is, I don't know, about $6 million, which is a lot of money for a federation that doesn't bring that much income in. You've now got that pot right there. You don't have an excuse not to build that technical center now. And so for me, that is where these teams close that gap, is they make themselves into those professional, really serious, really sophisticated kind of programs. And I think the reality is, with the exception of Morocco and Cape Verde, I don't necessarily trust a lot of these federations to get it right. And the issue with Cape Verde is, even if they get it right, they have a natural ceiling, right? This is their ceiling, and it's an amazing ceiling to hit. but that is their ceiling.
And obviously, yeah, to your point, there is the as the political science major in this discussion, I am somewhat. I have a great deal of trepidation sometimes, especially when it comes to internal politics. And I mean in the governmental side, not athletically, but in the governmental side of things on the African continent. So am I right to be concerned that, yes, you're bringing in all this money, you hope it's directed the way it's supposed to, but I fear there might be roadblocks politically for whatever reasons. And, oh, and wait a minute, we got to focus on this, this, and this instead of trying to build what you're accomplishing here in the World Cup.
Yeah, 100%. And again, look, it's on a nation by nation basis. Some of these nations have governments that are able to step in. Some of them are able to, have governments that, yeah, you don't trust. I think there's also an issue with FIFA's own governance laws. FIFA have these very strange laws where they don't allow for government interference into federations, and they claim that governments, can't, shouldn't, and be involved at all in the running of their football federations. And the problem is sometimes you need the government to be involved. A good example is my own country, Kenya. A few years ago, our football federation president was indicted on fraud. Using money that was for the federation for his own benefit. He's arrested. And so what does FIFA do? Do they reward the government for saying, tackling this corruption? No, they say, oh, the government, you've interfered with this, so we're going to ban Kenya for 2 years. So in many ways, it's also, I think, there's an issue of the way in which FIFA kind of go about their own governance infrastructure. And FIFA have shown that they can do it well, right? The FIFA Forward Fund is a very good example where they have this big pot of money that almost any nation in the world can apply for, but it comes with a lot of strings attached. FIFA says if you want to use this money, you have to invest it in technical centers, you have to invest it in women's football, you have to invest in youth football. And Cape Verde, for instance, are the perfect example. They went to FIFA and said, can we get access to your FIFA Forward Fund? FIFA said, absolutely. And with that money, they built 2 training centers, one on Santiago Island, one on São Vicente Island. They've invested a lot into their youth football. They've invested into their women's football. Cape Verde, having only played their first ever women's national game in 2019, have qualified for the Women's African Cup of Nations. That's happening in a month's time. So I think there is, governance issues. And I think, again, different countries have different governance issues and different kind of challenges, because there are challenges. But I think there's also, we can look at even the structures within football and say, look, these should be better. These are not designed to benefit a lot of these countries.
When it comes to the coaches that we've been able to see in this tournament, I naturally gravitate towards Sebastian de Saab and what he has been able to accomplish. And you look at Bubista and what he has been able to accomplish. Are there any other stars in the making, if they stick with their current federations, that we need to keep an eye on?
I mean, the big one is Mohamed Wahbi at Morocco. He is a brilliant coach, and in many ways, Sebastian de Sabre, you're so right to point him out. He's transformed the Congolese national team single-handedly, and a lot of that is him demanding that they implement certain structures around the team. You really professionalize the team. Whereas Wahbi he's a coach. He's not worried about the extra things. He's not worried about off the pitch things. And he is the one, for me, as a coach, has an incredibly high ceiling. He's done brilliantly everywhere he's gone, whether it was in Belgium when he was coaching Anderlecht and their youth teams, whether it's the Moroccan youth teams where he won the World Cup with the under-20s team. He is the one for me that if he sticks around, if he can manage the Moroccan public, because the Moroccan public are a fickle thing and a very passionate and very loud and very big fan base, and something that, while Regragui, his predecessor, didn't do very well, if he can manage that side of things, the sky is the limit for him.
Our friend Ali Howorth, who knows everything about African football that you ever wanted to know, and that's why we ask him, and we have him come on the show practically once a week during this time of year. Hey, dude, we have a question. It's like in class. We raise your hand. Mr. How, one of those kind of things. We're in class. This is African football 101 for us. Hopefully we'll get to 201, 301, and maybe a graduate level course at some point. But right now we're still in the 101 stage. We're at freshman level African football. Busy day for you today. You're going to be camped out, hopefully in air conditioning. As much as I would like for you to sample Decatur Watch Fest before you go, maybe night side with Colombia and Ghana, see what's going on there. But yeah, go sample Decatur Watch Fest before you go. You got a busy day. Egypt favored against Australia. Mo Salah's the big question there. Cabo Verde, a plus 2,000 underdog going up against Argentina, who's a minus 625. Colombia in the nightcap, a minus 233 against Ghana. And there's some undercurrents there with Carlos Queiroz. Oh my goodness, I didn't even know, and then I found out about it, and I'm like, whoa, that's some heavy ish. Where would you like to start, sir?
I mean, I think we should start with the first one. Egypt versus Australia. I think for me, this is the game where we've got a lot of hopes. I think Egypt are for me the slight favorites. It's a tight one, and the big worry is like you mentioned, Mohamed Salah. He's not fully fit,
Yeah.
and that gives me real flashbacks. Because in 2018, the last time Egypt were at the World Cup, he was fantastic. He qualified them single-handedly. I remember that amazing game he had against Congo Brazzaville to qualify them for the first time in what was almost 30 years. And then he gets, I don't know if you remember that 2018, Champions League final, where Sergio Ramos suplex him right at the beginning of the game in the Liverpool Real Madrid one.
Yep.
And so for him, it's a race back to fitness, and he's not fully fit, but they, are so desperate for him to play that he plays. And he has a terrible game. Egypt have a terrible World Cup, and they go crashing out. So, Hassan Hassan, the head coach, I think is aware of that, and he's also a very strong character. And he's someone who's crazy guy in his own right, and has 1,000,001 stories. But he's one of the good things about him is he's got a very strong personality, and I do think that if he doesn't think Salah is fit, he doesn't think he's kind of able to make the difference, he will put him on the bench and maybe bring him on as a sub. And I think for me that is the key. If they manage Salah right, and manage him does not necessarily mean play him,
right,
then I back Egypt to get through, because I think this team actually is very good. I think there's a lot of attacking talents, and it's a team that should beat Australia. But having said that, Turkey should beat Australia. You can never underestimate the Aussies.
Yes, and then match number 2, dinner hour. This is Cinderella, the whole midnight thing, the carriage, you name it. Does the slipper fit? All those kinds of things. I mean, what are you looking at here?
I mean, it's interesting because I've been chatting to a lot of Capo Verdeans living on the islands the last few days. I wrote a piece that went out this morning about what it's like on the islands, and you speak to everyone, they're so confident. They're like, Argentina, Messi, like no worries, we like not a problem. Look, it's a tall order. I think for everything that Cabo Verde has in terms of organization, structure, really good, well-coached team. There's some players you can't coach yourself to stop, and I felt like that with the Spain game. If Lamine Yamal was fully fit, if he played the whole 90 minutes, Spain probably would have beat them. And you've got to hold your hands up and say, look, tournament football is about luck. You can be super well coached, but Cape Verde were also lucky that they went up against the Spain team without Yamal. And so I think it's a big ask. The one thing I will say is Cabo Verde, for me, have been the most tactically flexible team at this tournament. In all 3 of their games, they've shown a completely different side to themselves. They played in a different style. They played in a different way. And what I will say is, yes, they'll probably lose, but you can bet a lot of money on the fact that they will come into this game with a game plan. They will have identified how to stop Messi, how we're going to try and get the best out of our players to stop him, and how we're going to hurt Argentina. They're a very, very well-coached team, really well-managed team, and they'll know what they need to do. Will that be enough? Probably not. But I can tell you that they will come into this game with a game plan.
Yeah, and that's going to be a fun one for a bunch of different reasons. And the boss here is going to, when she comes racing into the house, she is going to try and find our Cabo Verdean wardrobe. And she'll be wearing, look, she's got the Blue Sharks jersey, and she's got the pullover and everything. So she's all in on Bubista and Vozinha and everybody there. It's been a fun ride, and we're going to continue talking about them, obviously. Last one. Carlos Queiroz, this is his 4th team that fourth separate nation he has managed in a World Cup situation. I think it was 71 days before the tournament started was when he was brought in to take over. There's some serious history between Queiroz and Colombia, and there's a lot of stuff going on in this one. And man, the touchline. I wish this was one of those matches where I wish they had just a camera on the touchline.
A ref cam. Yeah.
I need a 4th or a ref cam just on Queiroz and his interactions with the other bench the entire time. And I talked about it with folks, and I said, it's a deep story. You've got to go find it. It has to do with a past gig, and there's a lot to it. And that's going to add to all of the subtext that you're going to have with this one late night.
And the one thing I will say about Carlos Queiroz is, it's an absolute mess the way he came in, and the way in which Ghana have managed their World Cup qualifiers and the way that that team has been managed over the last 5-10 years. But the one thing that Carlos Queiroz is very, very good at is very good at managing narratives. He's very, very, he worked with Sir Alex Ferguson, for a long time at Manchester United, and he's got that Fergie kind of way of manipulating the press, speaking sweet words when he needs to, using the carrot and the stick. And one thing, I mean, my biggest memories of Carlos Queiroz was the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations when he was the Egypt head coach, and he took this terrible Egypt team to the final, playing the worst football you can possibly imagine. And they almost won it. They lost on penalties in the final to Sadio Mane's Senegal. But the one thing that he was so good at was he bought into this Egypt psyche, this idea that the whole world is against us. No one in Africa wants us to win. He got sent off in the semifinal when they reached the final, and he was heralded as a hero because of it, because of the way in which he was like, oh, he's dying for our shirt. He just lives and breathes Egypt. And he's already done the same thing for Ghana. He's already kind of got this whole nation behind a team that, again, prior to this tournament, no one really fancied. A lot of Ghanaians felt very apathetic about this World Cup. He's completely transformed that, and he will use these kind of subplots, these side narratives, to distract from the things he thinks need to be distracted from, to take the tension away from his players. Look, it's a tough game. I really like Colombia. I really like this team. I think they have a lot of weapons, and Ghana showed their kind of blueprint against England in that low block. They're very happy defending deep. I think Colombia have those weapons that England don't in terms of opening up a team like that. Daniel Munoz with his runs from out wide are superb. John Arias, Luis Diaz on the flanks, and James Rodriguez. Like, there's a lot there. But I do think from a Ghanaian perspective, they've shown that they've got resilience. They've shown they've got the grit, and they've shown again that they've got tactical plans. England, they identified Elliot Anderson is the key player, and so every time he got the ball, Kwasi Sibo or Caleb Birinci were already on him. So I think, again, they'll have a plan to stop these guys. Yes, it's a plan that might hurt them. Antoine Semenyo for me is their best player, and he's been sacrificed a lot for this team, and I think he'll do the same. I would love to see him attack more, but I think he'll be put on Daniel Munoz. Say, look, you got to track this guy because he's the key. And I think that's the type of thing that Ghana will do very well. Again, similar to Cape Verde, will it be enough? I doubt it. But if it goes, the further along this game goes, the more the pressure builds on Colombia and the more you start to favor Ghana. So for me, those first 15, 20 minutes, if they can set the tone right, I think they've got a very small chance.
Yes. So if you would please, sir, cut the promo for everybody and let them know about your Substack, because I believe Jason has now subscribed as well. I follow along. And so mandatory reading and viewing is all of your stuff. Hit the promo for me.
Yeah. Ali's African Football I'm on Substack on YouTube. You can find myself stuff on various other places. Like I said, I wrote a piece for The Guardian this morning on Cape Verde. But if, as a freelance journalist, I always appreciate the support and love that I get from people. So Ali's African Football on Substack and on YouTube.
All right. What are you up to on Tuesday?
Tuesday is I'm trying to remember what days are which. Is that the game that's here, or?
No, I'm just checking to see what your morning is like on Tuesday. Are you still on this side of the Atlantic on Tuesday morning?
I think I should be. I think is that the day that I leave? I can't remember. Yes, I think I will potentially be still kicking about.
Okay, well,
I need to check my calendar.
All right, well, check your calendar, and we'll either do Monday late or we'll bat you Tuesday leadoff before you get out of here and head back to the other side of the Atlantic. It's always great to see you, my friend. Thanks for the breakdown. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks so much.
There he goes, Ali Howard. And the thing is that Ali's not wrong. He's probably in like his 19th cup of coffee right now because his clock is probably at like 2:30 in the afternoon. And it's always great to catch up with Ali and find out what's going on. Like I said, for us, catching up with Ali is like African football 101. And with everything that we've seen here, with Morocco, with South Africa, and with Cabo Verde, and with DR Congo, we got the chance to catch up on a lot of that stuff here. And, you can watch a lot of African football on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And then that way you can catch up on everything in the CAF and AFCON and all the qualifiers. WAFCON coming up in, he said a month or two. So you're going to get all of that at Fanatis because they have all the BNs. Middle East, North Africa, you get all the things. You get access to Tigo Sports. You get access to CATV. You get access to TEC, which means you get Argentina. You get TVV, which means you get Venezuela, unless you have a cable system and you have the Hispanic package, and TVV is already there, but I'm just saying that. And you have CDO and CDO Plus out of Chile that's available on Fanatis. You have Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru that's on Fanatis. A lot of the A and B divisions that you might not have had access to previously, you get it at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. That link helps us out, helps them out, helps you out with all the things that you need going forward. So we saw the juice boxes. We got the early returns on those 3. And just to keep an eye out, let me see, what am I missing here when it comes to, is there anything else? I know the NWSL is back. When does that start? So Big FOX has the triple header, 2, 6, and 9:30. Telemundo has the triple header, 2, 6, and 9:30. Tonight on the Plus, USL Championship, Loudoun United, Sporting Jacks, that's at 7 o'clock. Fox ONE has the triple header, 2, 6, and 9:30. Peacock has the triple header, 2, 6, and 9:30. NWSL starts back tonight. NWSL Plus, Denver and Kansas City at 9:30. We've got news out of Kansas City we can get into later. Angel City and Orlando Pride is at 10 o'clock. Victory Plus at 8 has Washington Spirit and Houston Dash. That is, once again, Victory Plus NWSL, and that is tonight. Tomorrow, it is round of 16, 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, Big FOX. FS2 has a Canadian Premier League doubleheader, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, Atletico Ottawa and Cavalry, Vancouver FC and Inter Toronto. Toronto Telemundo has 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock. ESPN Plus has USL Championship, 3, 6, 9 matches starting at 4. Last one kicks off at 10:30. League One has 3 matches. Cosmos Greenville, Fort Wayne Spokane, and Fort Wayne, I believe, is unveiling Ruoff Mortgage Field. So this is the first match that they have in their new barn. Fort Wayne and Spokane, 7:30. Corpus Christi, Chattanooga, 7:30. Fox ONE has World Cup 1 and 5. CPL at 7. Fox Soccer Plus has CPL at 7. Peacock has World Cup 1 and 5. VEEX has your UEFA U19 European Championships at 9 o'clock in the morning. Women's Northern Super League, Montreal, Vancouver's at 2 on the Plus. Ion, your doubleheader in the NWSL, North Carolina, Seattle, San Diego, and Gotham, and that gets you through Saturday. Now, he called a shot. And so, when it happened yesterday, he's like, and he's like banging out in all caps, this means I have to come back on. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And so, of course, since it is it's a little past 9:30, it's time to bring the man back in. So, go ahead. Actually, tell you what. Here is. I have to tease you here. So hang on just a second. So this is yesterday. This is you calling your shot, courtesy of us.
It will have everything that you asked for. You got drama. You got 2 captains. You got leaders. You got great players. You got 2 coaches that are going against each other. You got all the ingredients for the to be the best game because Croatians, the fighters, man. They are absolute fighters, and you make sure that when you taking down, make sure that they're not getting up, because if they got up, they will beat you. All right, that's what it gets. And I watched that documentary from the captains, and Luka Modric, an absolute leader for Croatia on his last World Cup, the last World Cup for Ronaldo. I mean, everything is right up there on the table. But having said that, this is the 2 things that I want to say about Spain and Portugal. I think they're going to show the true colors today, and if we're gonna understand why they're title contenders, is it because today's performances.
There you go. That's what he said yesterday, and so he's back today because that's what he said yesterday.
Right, and before I say anything today,
before.
Cancelo, Fernandes,
All right, there you go. Sing louder than the actual song. I don't want to get dinged on music licensing here. Yeah,
brother.
Man, that game was
Man,
ridiculous.
it was just. There's the most dramatic game. It was. I don't know if it was the best game, but it was the most dramatic game of the tournament so far. And they did show up, but they both show up. And we're gonna talk about Spain, of course, and Portugal. But when I saw Roberto Martinez making the 4 substitutions at once. 4 substitutions at once. Oh my God! This is if it works, I'll be the king. If it doesn't, I'm gonna just walk back to Spain, back to Portugal. I'm gonna swim back to Portugal. But it worked out.
That was a fire wagon change, brother, and that was like, man, you're just throwing it all on the table.
And it's just you gotta. The thing is, you gotta make those decisions. You gotta take your chances because there's no tomorrow. There's no tomorrow, Rocky. There's no tomorrow. And he understood that. He understood that there was no tomorrow, that he got to sub out Cristiano, even though he just you saw the camera. I was like, you taking me out, bro? You know who I am? I'm is it right? Please check the pallets. The electronic pallets is number 7. Oh, my. Oh. Okay. Well, I want to play cool. I want to high five everyone. But I'm so mad about this, about leaving. But the thing is, it was the possibility of going to overtime. It was like right there. It was a true menace for Portugal. He did not rely on Cristiano playing 120 minutes. Yeah. No way. No freaking way. And then he got what's his name? Gonzalo Ramos. My buddy, I don't know if you know Zach Lowy. You probably heard of him. A Portuguese American that journalist, and he posted this that about Gonzalo, that he is probably the most clutch striker in Portugal. He is the most clutch. There's nobody else. If you go on the records, clutch goals for Benfica, clutch goals for PSG, clutch goals for Portugal, and he showed up. He stepped up last night, and it was just phenomenal. But against the renaissance of Luka Modric, who disappeared, he was a ghost in the first 45 minutes. He was nowhere to be seen. And then Luka took over the wheels for Croatia, and they were close. They were close to eliminate Portugal, but the thing is, this is what you call the luck of the champions, right? Championship luck was present yesterday at BMO Field. It was present, and sending a message. This is the history that we're writing now, but I know the end of this history. I know the final chapter. And I know who will be lifting the trophy. Oh, my God, Nino, did you say that? Oh, my God, did I just say that? I did. Yeah, I did.
You did.
Cheers for coffee, man.
There was chaos. This was a great description of what happened in the second 45. Literally, this was the breakdown. And it comes from Nancy Froston at The Athletic. So this is basically the final 45 minutes, and I'm taking the final 27 and then adding all the chaos. Perisic scores to put Croatia ahead. Ronaldo scored, but he was offside. And I mean just offside. Then he scores a penalty to level the score, and it was a penalty. It was. Then he subbed off for Ruben Neves. Ramos gets the header to give Portugal the lead, and the negative vert of those two defenders that were bracketing Gonzalo Ramos, literally, they just stood there, and that negative vertical jump. I mean, literally, if they jumped, they were going into the ground. They stood like they were like Doric, Ionic, or Corinthian columns right there on Lakeshore Boulevard. Yeah. They were standing there. They bracketed, and all Gonzalo Ramos literally had to do was get on a step stool that you get next to the fridge to make contact with the ball to get it into the net. Then Croatia equalizes through an own goal. Then you have the goal disallowed after Matanovic's header. And literally, and we have our friend at Kennesaw State University who has the screen cap of where it registered on the chip, the contact.
Right there.
And it meant that Pasalic was offside in the buildup. So literally, and I mean, if it was a haircut like mine, you probably wouldn't have had it happen. But Matanovic makes contact with it. And it was 5 minutes of chaos added to the 10, and it ended up being like 17 minutes of 90. So you get all of that, and Spain now gets Portugal in the next round. Gee, that won't be rivalry or nothing.
And now I want to throw this. I want to throw this out there to the cyber world. So all the chats in the in North American market, I'm gonna go crazy about this. Probably already been crazy about it, but in South America, we're going crazy because of what? What if this happened to our Argentina game?
Oh,
Penalty and the offside call disallowed for Argentina. Could you imagine this, Johnny? Could you imagine the world would be on fire?
Oh
no, this is corruption. This is all for Messi. They gave it to Messi. They like.
Oh well, no. Well, there's some folks who are sitting there that after that happened, they're like, "Oh man, they gave this to Cristiano Ronaldo." There were folks. Trust me.
Right, but just minimal, Johnny. Minimal. If it would have been Messi, oh no, another freebie for Messi. Oh, they want a penalty. Okay, get a penalty for you, Infantino. Yeah, this is Gianni. Get a penalty for Messi. You know, that's the narrative. That's how we were crazy. And I got all these chats that are going ballistic here, and I just put that up. There was an Argentina kid that was an ace that posted that. What if it happened to Argentina? It would have been just. The world will be on fire now. On fire. No, but because it's Cristiano, it's all good, right? It's all good. And I'm not saying that and this is me, all right? Because I'm celebrating. I'm so happy for Cristiano. I want Portugal to win this championship. I want Cristiano to get his last dance, the trophy. Okay, because I believe I always saying this year that there are the two kings. There are two kings, different thrones. But there are the two kings of football, okay? And I'm not criticizing. I'm not mad. I'm not angry because Cristiano got a penalty because I like Messi better. No. I am the one. I'm probably in the 5% of the soccer fans out there that is happy for both. I'm happy for both. When Messi goes well, I'm happy for him. When Cristiano goes, and potentially, we have the greatest opportunity in the history of the sport to have the two kings facing each other in the final. Right? You see that? Am I crazy? I think they're one side of the bracket and they were going on the other side. Yeah. Because it's going this way, it will beat France. Yeah. There will be. Yeah. We again. In 2022, it was the bracket was Portugal on one side of the bracket and Argentina was on the other side of the bracket. So actually, I don't know if it's designed to be like that, but hoping to be like that. Yeah,
because you can't sit there and say Portugal's going to surrender a point here and do this and all that stuff. But if they projected it out,
a possibility. Yeah, they got the one king on that side, the other king on the other side. Okay, that's what it is, and it will probably happen, John. It will be the close. It will be just the greatest final ever,
brother. They got to get past France if that's going to happen in the upper part of the bracket.
I know, but trust me. All right, once we want to see now the clash between these two giants that are going to face each other in the next round, which is Portugal and Spain. And I was going live on TikTok last night, and this Spaniard, there was a Spaniard kid who would tell me Spain doesn't have the X factor to win this. Did you need the X factor? And that X factor is not present on Spain squad right now. And I don't think they have it. And there's nothing that you can do about it, because you can be a fantastic player, but it's that age, that extra element that is not in the air, that gets you into the final stage of a competition like this. And we know that in this World Cup, you only have, we're 7 now. Now it's 8 games. There's 8 games where everything has to be lined up between those 8 games. I don't care if you were undefeated for 500 games before, or you won 500 games after this month. Everything has to be lined up on these 8 games. And this is what's happening right now with Portugal. It's happening with Portugal. So yeah, I know you don't want this. I know you don't want this, Johnny, but Nino Damos will be right on July 19.
Well, like I said, brother, Portugal's got to get through France before they do anything. That's that part of the bracket. So you get to that point. I mean, so here's how it breaks down, and we'll go over this obviously again in hour number 2. But here's your breakdown of what it looks like. Upper half, Paraguay and France. Paraguay and France, Canada, Morocco, Portugal, Spain, U.S. and Belgium. So that's that is the upper half of that bracket.
Right. And then at the bottom, you have Brazil and Argentina.
Brazil, Norway, Mexico, England. Oh, the Azteca. That's going to be huge. Sunday night. You've got Argentina, Cabo Verde, Australia, Egypt taking on the Switzerland, Colombia, Ghana, and then that feeds through from the bottom half. So that's what you're staring at with those. But I'm looking at France and them powering through, and then you got Portugal and Spain, the U.S. and Belgium. Winners of those will play on the 10th of July in Los Angeles, and so that's where we are here with them. And so Nino Damas is calling his shot. You're banking on Portugal, huh? You're calling.
I am, and because they're getting stronger by the round. They're getting stronger by the round. First round of the competition, you're like, okay, they got a great game. They couldn't beat was it Colombia? No, was it Colombia? Yeah, they couldn't beat Colombia. And then this game, and then it comes the challenges for Portugal are going higher and stronger and harder, and that's what makes them the absolute true candidate. Because if they beat Spain, which I think they will.
Whoa! All right,
Cristiano and company will be like, all right, Mbappe, bring it on, brother. Bring it on, because we know about you. All right. I got three of my buddies here, Vitinha Yone, 4 actually. Vitinha Yone, Nuno Mendes and Gonzalito Ramos, that they know a thing or two about French. Yeah, we'll be ready for you. We'll be ready for you. And there's another element that hasn't showed up yet. And that's Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes hasn't had yet a massive game. And this is the guy.
Because he's had to defer to
this year, July 3rd here on SDH. Bruno Fernandes will have a massive game against Spain. He will be the key for Portugal to win that game over Spain. I'm saying it today. Okay. Not the day after the game they beat Spain. No, I'm saying it today. Mark my words.
Okay. All right. Words have been marked. So your weekend is playing pickup, watching games, and baking your ass off, yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. It's been crazy. I'm so happy. And we're adding more restaurants to the line of clients here, and yeah, buddy, it's working out. It's working out. So we'll see. We'll see on Sunday, man. Ready for Sunday? My God, I think I want to make some tacos on Sunday. I don't know what I'm gonna add, or fish and chips. I don't know. Probably I don't know. Probably I'll make one of the two, both of them. I'm gonna be fish and chips. I'm gonna do fish tacos. All right, fish tacos.
There you go.
We combine the whole thing.
There you go.
That'll be massive.
Yes.
Hurricane.
Yeah. In at the Azteca.
Harry we trust.
Yeah.
Harry we trust.
Sure. You and everybody else that's Three Lions, man. That's a tall order going to Mexico. It's going to be a fun weekend. Love you very much, my brother. We will see you next week, and I know you're going to dive in when Nino Damas comes correct. I know you're going to want to crash.
Thank you, Johnny. I'll see you next week, guys. Take care.
There he goes, Nino Torres, a.k.a. Nino Damas. Nino Damas has laid down the gauntlet. He had it yesterday, and he laid it down today, so we'll see how accurate Nino Damas is going forward. So let's get into the game that he was talking about. Got a couple of things to get into here. And this was the goal that started the chaos. Perisic scores, it's 1-0. And we talked about Cristiano Ronaldo scoring, but he was offside, and boy, he was just offside. Then you get the PK, which it was. So you're at 1. Okay, cool, fine. Then you end up with this moment, and Gonzalo Ramos, after Ronaldo subbed off in 80. Oh, I was like, oh, my goodness. I'm sure the planet, I literally went back in my chair. 80th minute, you're Roberto Martinez, and you sub off Cristiano Ronaldo. You've either got something up your sleeve, or you've got some dice, man, that you want to slip into the conversation, or you know the dealer. Ronaldo subbed off, and then you end up with this moment from Gonzalo Ramos, once again, courtesy of our friends at Telemundo Deportes.
La apertura para Rafa Leao. Lo espera Stanisic. Centro, segundo palo. Gonzalo Ramos, golazo. Hace un golazo. 2-1.
Qué momento para meter ese centro de Leao. Se había dolido muchísimo la jugada anterior, pero aquí está como cachetea la pelota y a la cita el super sub, el cambio que tenía el as bajo la manga. Gonzalo Ramos del PSG está dejando con un pie en la siguiente ronda a su equipo.
Yeah, it's El super sub. You ain't kidding. So Gonzalo Ramos gets that goal. And I would recommend going to catch the highlights off, unless you can watch the match in its entirety. Go back to the 63rd minute, watch the rest of it. I had it on Telemundo. And that kind of sets up our next guest coming up here in about less than 10. It's Ramses Sandoval. Very, very busy man. And we're going to catch up with him and get his World Cup thoughts and anything else that's on his mind. But all of that happens, and then you have the chaos at the end, literally, and I have the screen cap. Our friend Chad Gabert from Kennesaw State gave me his screen cap of it. And let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here's the screen cap that Chad sent me from the broadcast. And there it is. There's the contact with the dome and the blip as it registers from the chip. The blip from the chip and the brush of the hair. That's literally, and like I said, Chad Gabert sent that to me over from Kennesaw State. Chad has updated stats, by the way, and we've got to get into that. We'll get into that before we disappear for another week. But there it is. The contact, the point of contact, and then the blip on the chip. And so that was where contact was made, and the chip registers the contact, and that's where it was. So you had that. Then you had all of the chaos, and if you can't go back and watch the full match, Telemundo has Telemundo Deportes on Twitter has a great breakdown of the whole thing, and they take events at a time, and they have the 3-minute discussion. They have 3 minutes of the discussion, because I think it was more like 5. 3 minutes of the discussion that went down involving the VAR segment of the program, because you can't call it a VAR review, because then that would be video assistant review. It's like RBIs. It runs batted in. It's RBI. So VAR, they've got 3 of the 5 minutes on there, and it's worth your time, unless you can go back and watch the last 40 minutes of the match. And I'm including the time that was added on. After the match, Roberto Martinez was asked about it from a Croat reporter. Here's the tail end of the question and the breakdown, which is as great a breakdown as anybody can give as to what was seen.
After that, obviously I'm devastated right now.
First of all, I've got an incredible admiration for Croatia. It's a country that I visited a lot and admire the sportive nature that the Croatian people have. But I need to tell them that the message is very clear. The balls now, they got a chip, and it's very clear that's why the VR intervened. There are two touches. There's the touch of Matanovic and the touch of Renato Vega. The touch, the sensor of the ball shows that the ball was touched, and at that moment, Pasalic is on offside. So before, the refereeing decisions were so difficult. I don't think this is one of those examples that technology helps the game because he was offside. There is not a subjective opinion. I think you think no, is offside. Why? Because the chip of the ball showed that there is Matanovic's touch and then Renato Vega's touch. And when it happens, the cross from Perisic is onside. Pasalic, Matanovic touch the ball, is offside. So the technology helps. I thought that the decisions today in the technology, they were all correct. I think the penalty on Renato Vega is clear. And I understand because I admire a lot the work of Zlatko Dalic in this national team and been in the last two World Cups involved in games very closely. We respect immensely the style. And it's a shame that one of the two teams had to lose today, but there is no bad decision or unlucky call. Today was clear-cut. Technology helped, and it shows that today we were fortunate with the moment, but it was a clear moment.
And no lie, I mean, by the letter of the breakdown, that is 120% correct. But just for it to come down to that moment is the abject craziness of the whole thing. So you had that, and then the other matches yesterday, they were kind of cruisers. Late night, for those of you that stayed up late, Switzerland and Algeria, it was 2-0, the final for Switzerland. Didn't really even seem that close. Even money favorite Switzerland at a plus 100. They got the Duke knocking off Algeria. Great tournament for them. And I know that the memories in Lawrence, Kansas will always be there. And like I said, I've got the gear to show it, and I'll probably end up wearing it at some point on the show. And our friends at Raygun, they came up with some really cool stuff, and there were some local merchants that came up with stuff. So next week might be an Algerian T-shirt week. We'll find out. But Switzerland got the Duke. They won 2-0, and even money plus 100. They got the advancement. And then Spain took care of Austria. Final there was 3-0 at a minus 286. And Oyarzabal continues to score. And when you think about the match number one that he had and where he is right now, it has been a flip. It has been a definite flip. Putting the world on notice once again. You're talking Unai Simon, a shutout streak now, 4 straight matches, 519 minutes. Broke Zenga's record now by 2+, going back to 1990. Cucurella, Oyarzabal, Porro at half, Oyarzabal in the 89th. Lamine Yamal played his largest stretch of minutes, 4 shots on target. Spain is unbeaten, by the way, in 35 straight competitive matches. The only loss for Luis de la Fuente, by the way, Portugal in the Nations League final. Now, and we don't really, there might be, unless you are really paying attention to soccer in Spain, and what I mean by that is La Liga, you may not necessarily know a whole lot about Mikel Oyarzabal. You better now. With that offense that's there and everyone that contributes to this. After that first match, they've been humming. And the Iberian Derby comes up next. Spain and Portugal. Are you blanking kidding me with this? So that's what we're going to be looking at going forward with that particular section of the bracket. So that was your review portion of the program. Now we do have the Oyarzabal goal. I may play it later, but that's where we are. You had a cruiser early, a cruiser late, and chaos in the middle. You had a chaos sandwich yesterday. in Toronto. When we mentioned the numbers, you got 3 African teams that are playing back-to-back-to-back. Egypt, you wonder about Mo Salah. Cabo Verde, does it strike midnight? Ghana, you know it's going to be defense first with Carlos Queiroz. Can they hang around long enough to make sure that Colombia gets frustrated and take advantage of an opportunity? That's going to be the larger question here. It is 10 o'clock, so that means one thing. It's time for a hydration break. And for that hydration break, we thank our friends at local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor stores. Once again, two great locations here in SDH HQ. It is Johns Creek, and it is also on in Cumberland, off of Cumberland Parkway. Great friends with us here now in 2026. Thanks to local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor stores for all of their interest and their friendship here with us here at SDH. So if you would please hydrate. It's your hydration break. I need hold music. I seriously need some kind of hold music for this. I need an independent artist that will not get us dinged for a licensing problem to come up with hold music or hydration break music. That's what we got to do. Hydration break music. That would be the thing. Okay. So there's your hydration. Once again, the hydration break brought to us by our friends at local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor stores. Once again, the 2 locations in and around the planet, Johns Creek and in Cumberland, off of Cumberland Parkway. Once again, it was great to see them a couple of weeks ago off of Cumberland Parkway, and it was they're loaded. They got a bunch of stuff. If you were trying to figure out what to have in your stacks and your stash, you go in there, you probably get lost. You probably get lost in there by trying to figure out. It's like, oh, I like this, and then they turn it into something akin to a complete and total impulse buy. It ends up as an impulse buy. So that would be pretty funny. If you wander in, I just need this one thing. You know what you can also do for a hydration break? You can go and catch up with our friends at Nofo Bruco and pick up the Soccer Down Here lager. You can kind of see the cans just over my shoulder here a little bit, obstructed by a family photo of me and the boss. So here, let me go back briefly, and I will show you. So here, right here, Nofo Bruco. For those of you who are interested, I'll try not to shine the light into it, but Nofo Bruco, the Soccer Down Here lager, you can pick that up at Nofo Bruco locations. And yes, these containers have been emptied because I have learned my lesson from having them in the past, where you have it full and you have it on the bookcase and you have it there for like years. And then the bottom ends up warping. And then you end up going, okay, I need either a new bookshelf or I need something that will make it work. So that was the breakdown of that. We learned at a very, very early age to have the liquid exit the container so it doesn't end up destroying bookshelves and other things and documents and all that stuff. So that's the rundown to there. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Let's get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, since we've gotten into what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it. And it is an opportunity for us to figure out, okay, who's going where. I guess getting into the news, Julian Nagelsmann's out as Germany's boss, and Jurgen Klopp looks like he might be taking the gig. About 20-7 this morning in various other places. After losing in PKs, Nagelsmann basically said, well, if y'all are going to do something, then y'all are going to do it. I'm not going to. And they did. Bernd Neuendorf, president of the DFB, came out with a statement thanking Nagelsmann for his work since September 23. DFB added in their statement they will initiate discussions with Jurgen Klopp to become the new manager of the national team. According to the DFB, they said that he, meaning Klopp, has already signaled his general willingness to take on the position. Nagelsmann had replaced Hansi Flick back in 23 at the age of 36. Former Bayern boss led Germany to the quarters of the Euros in 24, had his contract extended until the Euros of 28 back last January. Klopp's been just kind of kicking back and doing Travago ads since he left Liverpool in 24. Named Red Bull's head of soccer January 25, and he's an analyst at the World Cup for Magenta TV. And so after Germany's exit, quote, I understand when people talk about the national coach, my name is mentioned, but it's not the right moment to talk about it, especially not with me. And this is probably in the segment following Nagelsmann's loss. I have a job that I really enjoy, and as far as I know, it's not a part-time job. Fact is, Germany was eliminated today, and this is not the moment for me to think about Jurgen Klopp's future. So he went third person, and it's $1 in the jar. But that was immediately after the loss. So Nagelsmann is out, and Klopp may be on his way in. And we'll see how many more times that he does third-person references leading into that. Then, let's see. So like I said, I'm looking for – here we go. Okay. Transfer news. We'll blow through it. And here's what we got. And there's a lot, obviously. Your trending rumors. In addition to Morgan Rogers, Arsenal are looking at Ezri Konsa, according to the four-letter paper, so take the information at your own peril. Gunners like the defender's ability to play at center back and right back, and they feel like can get him away from Villa Park for around £35 million. Even so, talks haven't taken place yet. Villa value his transfer much higher than that figure. Where Rogers is concerned, Arsenal and Chelsea believe Villa could be willing to talk at around £85 million. Team talk suggesting Manchester United showing a strong interest in Ismaila Sarr. Sarr impressed for Senegal the World Cup. He was on page 2 of the leaderboard when it came to goals scored. Could be available for around £35 million. Rashford would have to go for United to sign a winger. Other clubs in the Premier League are interested. Club have also had exploratory talks with West Ham over Crescencio Somerville. According to, once again, the four-letter paper. So keep an eye on the four-letter paper. Bayern Munich interested in Juve center back Bremer as they consider several players to strengthen their defense, according to Sky Italia. 29-year-old's future is obviously going to become clearer after the World Cup. Brazil gets Norway on Sunday. Bremer wants to stay with the Bianconeri and end his career there, but he also wants to know whether they'd be willing to move him on. So you got to keep an eye on Bremer. Premier League clubs have spoken to intermediaries about Roma and Morocco midfielder Neil El Ayanoui, according to Team Talk. Previously received interest from the likes of Real Madrid and Barca after impressing at the African Cup of Nations. Performances at the World Cup have extended into the Premier League. United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Villa, Brighton, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Everton, Sunderland, all keen. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. What's up with the other 11? Y'all, you've fallen asleep at the switch. If only 9 of you are interested and mentioned in an article, where are the other 11? I mean, come on now. Let's think about this. City are working on a deal for Leicester City's Jeremy Monga after making a bid of around £10 million, according to The Athletic. That is Ornstein et al. Arsenal have withdrawn as they feel the Fox's valuation of the player's transfer is too high, and they're now in direct contact with Leicester over a move. New City boss Enzo Maresca behind the club's drive to sign Mongo, having worked with him in the 23-24 season when he was at Leicester. Georgia Stanway, Arsenal announced the signing of her on a free after she left Bayern Munich at the end of this season, following the expiry of her contract. Manchester City have reached an agreement with Forest once again on Elliot Anderson, £116, no build-ins or add-ons or bonuses. Enzo Fernandez's agent has confirmed the midfielder is exploring options to leave Chelsea. Remember back on May 29th, the Blues, they said they would demand a fee in the region of £120 million as he tried to force his way out of the club. Yeah, I'd like to play there. They didn't like that, so they sat him. Chelsea expect him to report for preseason training as normal following Argentina's participation in the World Cup. Other rumors, Bruno Guimaraes, Arsenal still want to sign him. Sorry, Alex. They're considering making a second offer of £60 million, according to the three-letter paper. Atletico de Madrid considering a move for Marseille striker Mason Greenwood as a replacement for Julian Alvarez, who could go to Barcelona. That's from Sport. Fenerbahce readying a move to sign Ollie Watkins. That's from the three-letter paper. Uncertainty over the future of Rafa Leao. That dime he dropped yesterday on the goal. Barcelona and Manchester United haven't gone past initial inquiries. Offered to Spurs, but he doesn't want to play in Saudi Arabia or Turkey, according to Gazzetta. Nathaniel Brown completed his medical ahead of a €55 million move from Eintracht Frankfurt to Bayern Munich, signing a contract until 2031. That's from Florian Plettenberg. Juve and Napoli among the clubs looking at Kepa. Gunner's shortlist to replace him includes Ilan Meslier, Jan Sommer, Matthew Ryan, and Stefan Ortega. That's from Team Talk. Matteo Moretta. Genoa interested in signing Marseille forward Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Sheffield Wednesday keeper Pierce Charles has agreed to return to Manchester City, and a deal is in place. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Sky Italia, AC Milan have made contact with Mario Hila's agent as they look to beat Napoli to sign the center back from Lazio. Nicolas Shira, defender Tarek Muharemovic, is getting closer to joining Juve from Sassuolo for a fee of €15 million plus 3 in add-ons. Trevor Chalobah has overtaken Udinese's Umar Soleil as Internazionale's favored option at center back. Reaching an agreement could be difficult after the Blues demanded Como increase their €25 million offer by $10 million. Once again, that's from Gazzetta. Gianluca Mancini wants clarity from Roma about his future with the center back entering the last year of his deal. Internazionale showing interest. That's from Corriere dello Sport. Nicolas Shira, Internazionale have reached an agreement in principle with right back Anand Kalaili, now ready to submit a first official to Royal Union Saint-Gilloise to sign him. Sky Italia, Bologna waiting to see if there will be an opportunity to negotiate with Real Madrid for young defender Victor Valdepenas. Sky Deutschland, RB Leipzig have Mainz midfielder Nadim Amiri on their short list, but there is currently little movement on the matter. They also say Freiburg would only be willing to let Swiss international Johan Manzambi leave for around €60 million, and Everton and Fulham want West Ham striker Tati Castellanos. That scream you just heard was Jarrett. That's from our friend Matteo Moretto. So that's your overseas rumors and the gossip and the innuendo of everything that is going on this morning. In Major League Soccer, there have been a couple of moves, and one of them has to do with a pickup by a Major League Soccer franchise for a new DP. And it is Brian Mendez that has been picked up by Crew. Now, remember, Crew, once again, as they were depositing and shifting and moving and placing folks in other places, they developed a little bit of space. And so, Crew have picked up Spanish midfielder Bryce Mendez from Real Sociedad after getting Argentine playmaker Lautaro Giacone. Mendez, 33 and 24, with 166 appearances for Real Sociedad, and they won this year's Copa del Rey before making the move for him. He's expected to join the Crew roster when the summer transfer window opens July 13th on a deal through 28-29. We mentioned the Danny Pereira deal, and if you missed it, it could be up to $2.4 million in allocation money by the time it's done. Off the board, traded him the first ever super draft pick for Austin FC to CF Montreal for $2.1 million in guaranteed GAM. I was about to say guaranteed. I thought it was guaranteed as guaranteed general allocation money. So it is 2.1 that could be 2.4 by the time they're done. To recap it, 1.4 million in 26 GAM, 700 million 27 GAM, 250,000 more in conditional, and Austin FC also gets a sell-on percentage of a potential transfer in the future. Austin FC interim head coach Davey Arnaud had a quote that lasted for 2 paragraphs. Pereira had a quote that lasted for 2 paragraphs. First overall pick in the 21 Super Draft. 6 plus 23 and 165 appearances all comps. Assist total tied for second most. Appearance total ranks as third most all time for the club. So that happened with Austin. And so Crew is adding a DP. Austin sends Danny Pereira to Montreal. Chicago Fire have bringing in Nico Estevez as their number 1 assistant to reunite him with Greg Berhalter. They were on the Columbus staff together. And remember that Nico Estevez, speaking of Austin, was their head coach until May. That's why Davey Arnaud is the interim head coach now. Colorado has reportedly expressed interest in, and I swear this is the name. Swear it's the name. And Gift Links. Swear to God, that's the name. Gift Links. 25-year-old central midfielder, team of the season campaign with Aarhus. Lens is also set to be tracking, but Colorado is in line for Gift Links. That's the dude's name. Seriously, that is the dude's name. Gift Links. Gift Links. NWSL's back this weekend, averaging a little over 11,000 fans through the first half of the year, 10% increase year to year. Obviously, when Denver's home opener gets you 63 and Boston's debut gets you north of 30, that helps out your average. And so that's your rundown there of those. So NWSL is back this weekend. NWSL is back. And just to remind you where things stand in the NWSL with standings and such, it is 3 matches on the board early. Tonight, Washington, Spirit, Houston, Denver, Kansas City, Angel City, and Orlando. Spirit a big favorite, obviously, at home. Kansas City a slight favorite on the road at Denver. Angel City favorite at home, and they had the coaching change in the break, in the competition break, leading up to Challenge Cup. So Angel City had a coaching change. They're favored tonight at home against Orlando. Orlando standings. And you have your couple of groups. San Diego's at 25 points. Royals are at 24, ahead of Portland on goal difference. Spirit at 21, ahead of Gotham and Kansas City on goal difference. So literally you have the top 6 teams separated by 4 points, heading back into play this weekend. Group number 2, Courage has found their wings. They're at 7th right now at 18 points. They've won 3 in a row. Orlando's won 2 in a row to get them to 8th and 17 points. Denver's won 3 of 4. They're at 15. Seattle has lost 3 of 4 to get them down to 14, ahead of Houston on goal difference and Angel City, who's at 13 points after they've lost 2 in a row. That's like group number 2. Then group number 3, Bay is in 13th. They've lost 3 in a row. They're at 11 points. Boston's lost 2 in a row. They're at 9. Chicago has only scored 5 goals in 12 matches this year, and they've given up 24. So they're giving up an average of 2 a match, and they're scoring only about a half goal a match. They've lost 4 of 5. They're in 15th. And Racing Louisville is 2-1-8. They have 7 points on the year. They've lost 3 in a row, 4 of 5. Emma Sears has said she wants a transfer. Racing Louisville has said that we don't do that kind of stuff in the middle of the year. So we'll see what happens with that. But Emma Sears is wishing to be in a different location than she is right now. Interesting stuff out of, since we're in the women's game, USL Super League has a new head coach in Dallas, Lee Nguyen. Lee Nguyen gets to be a head coach in Dallas in the USL, and it was also announced that the group that owns Atletico Dallas in the USL, we'll catch up with Kaylor Hodges early part of next week, too, to get into this. But Kaylor Hodges and the USL show looking at Atletico Dallas, and they picked up Dallas Trinity. So they now have the USLW franchise and the USL Championship franchise to be all under the same umbrella. We've reached out to Matt Valentine, who's the head of their ownership group, to see if we can catch up with him about the purchase, the future, where Atletico is, what they saw in Trinity, all of those things. So we've reached out to them as well to let you know what's going on with that. But you have Lee Nguyen, the new head coach in Dallas for USL Super League, for the Gainbridge Super League, and Atletico Dallas, which is coming online in Dallas in the championship. They're now under the same umbrella. So that's so that is the other piece of the other interesting piece of news that came across the desk it was an interesting pickup for the ownership group there in Dallas to add to what's going on there. So I mentioned, well, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll bookmark it right there. All right. I've had my hydration break, and I would suggest that others have their hydration break as well, like perhaps maybe the Pride of Pomona, California. He have his hydration break. We bring him in, and it is always great to see Ramses Sandoval. Good morning, sir.
How you doing? The pride. I heard of that little subtle moment. I've had a hydration break as well. As you know, it's very important for me as we're nonstop the World Cup. So I agree with you, and so do you. You need to as well with your show.
Yeah. Let's see. What is it? I think 31 in a row, and we don't stop on Saturdays and Sundays, and so I think we got another 18 left. And so then we collapse around December when we forgot we bought Christmas presents, and then Amazon becomes our friend. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah.
How are you, my friend?
It's been great. It's good. It's on top, obviously, with this World Cup experience. As you know, it's because of the 48 national teams. We're on how many out without a break, even with that one matchup, which was just the Canada-South Africa game. But it's been great. You know, we cut that break for Major League Soccer, but with the World Cup, as you know, a lot of travel, a lot of back-to-back games. But it's been amazing. We really are blessed to do what we do and tell some of these unbelievable stories. And for me particularly, I've gotten some matches, man. You know, I was on the call of that Australia historic game, Iran Egypt game, which was unbelievable. In Seattle, that late goal from Iran, it's called off. So we've been part of some crazy matchups that perhaps at first, when you circled them in the calendar, you know, everybody wanted to see France, Norway, everybody wanted to see Argentina and Brazil. I was in Boston for Iraq, Norway. And so Iraq scores their first goal in 40 years. They hadn't scored a goal in the World Cup since 1986. So you could imagine. It's been kind of storylines that even I did not expect would blow up, if you will. But they've had. So thanks to that, I got a ton of fans in Iraq now, and Iran, and Australia, and South Africa. With the Bafana call I had as well. I forgot that one. They get to the knockout stage for the first time in their history, and I had that South Africa South Korea matchup as well, pivotal for them.
How many different teams have you called in this tournament?
A ton, which has been amazing because, you know, a lot of it would be amazing to have Colombia and Mexico and Uruguay and Argentina, because obviously those are fantastic countries and you draw a lot of fans. But I've had a blast. You know, I had Australia, Turkey, Paraguay. I had Senegal, faced. I had Norway a couple of times, so that was awesome with Holland. They faced Iraq and they faced Senegal as well. The South Africa, South Korea game. We had the Iran Egypt game. We had the Iraq Norway game, as I mentioned, couple in between. But had the Sweden Netherlands game, and then we also had the Sweden Tunisia game. So it was fun. It was fun. We're LA, Boston, Houston. So you know, back in Miami, because you have to come back and pay your dues down here as well. So I think I got all of them so far.
Oh, I mean, you sounded off about a quarter of the roster. And what I like to do sometimes is I'll ask broadcasters across the board when it comes to study hall, and especially when you're cramming for a test and you've got to basically just kind of sit there and go, churn and burn, this one's over, go to the next. How do you keep all of your research together? How do you keep it all in line? And how do you keep from getting confused and not dropping Erling Braut Haaland when you're talking about Korea Republic? How do you break all that down?
And for me, getting ready for this World Cup, and I've always had sort of a system and a process, and it doesn't matter what game I'm calling. I like to strong to the process, if you will, for lack of a better way of explaining it, because you just the fan and the experience on the other side of the television or service or whatnot, or speakers, they deserve that. So I have the same system, to be honest with you, with Major League Soccer as far as how I prepare a game. I like to get a jump start on the starting 11s. I don't like to wait, you know, until that 1 hour window, even though with the World Cup, because of the tournament, you sometimes get that lineup maybe 70 minutes if you're lucky before actual kick. And of course, with Telemundo doing a great job in their research team, they try to get us that email as fast as they can. I mean, as soon as it breaks, drops, before apps probably have the starting 11 confirms for the national team. Again, this speaking specifically about the World Cup, and good feeling as well when you can knock out at least 9 of some of the games because of the changes that the coaches made. I wasn't that lucky, but there's some where I nailed all 11. Of course, when we had, for example, Sweden, Tunisia, and then I got Sweden again in Houston against the Netherlands, it's a great feeling. Situation, you already have a little bit in here of Sweden, and I had the opportunity to deal with that with Australia. when I got them against Turkey initially, but then I got them against Paraguay in the last match day, with Sweden, with Senegal, because I had them against Norway, and then I had them against Croatia in the last match day, and with Norway, which was really fun because I had that game in Boston against Iraq, and then we got them again in New York, New Jersey against Senegal. And again, they're similar. Of course, we saw what happened with Solbakken against France. He switched the whole team up, but I didn't have them in the last match day of the group stage. It's a very similar for me. I stick to the same creature habit, if you will, in the way that I like to prepare games. A ton of notes on both national teams. I try to go a little bit outside of the pitch with fun facts and interesting information on the country. I give a couple examples that I got a lot of good feedback on from calling games, and it's just stuff that happens when you have a game. When I had the Turkey game, I threw in there that they were the owners of the quickest, fastest record goal in a World Cup, 10.8 seconds, 2002. When I had Iran, they had just started the oldest in average 11 in the history of World Cups, a match day before I had them. Egypt, they started in 2022, the oldest, goalkeeper in the history of the World Cup, 45 and change years-wise. I had Switzerland. I forgot that one. At those two, I had Switzerland, Bosnia, and LA. And with that, I mentioned, Switzerland was involved in the highest-scoring World Cup game ever in their World Cup, 12 goals. Austria, 7. These are all things where, when you're prepping a game, you probably don't have it at the top of your head. You're thinking of the typical cliche stuff, but I like all that stuff. And, fans say, not only are you, keeping us excited on the call, but it's too funny. I heard historian a lot. You're also a historian. So, but it's big time, as you can imagine. It's a World Cup game. I'll give you an example. The Norway-Iraq game, I think, drew 5 million for us on our network, which was a great story because, again, it's Norway-Iraq. It's a game that you were excited about, but the draw was huge. And all of these fans listening to you, you want to put on the best broadcast possible. And again, for us and for me specifically, with Telemundo, it's 9 play announcer. It's a prison you're in with the 72 games in group stage, 104 overall, and you want to do your job well.
Ramses Sandoval, styling and profiling, looking only as he can look here on a Freestyle Friday, where we're just we're catching up with him, and we're doing the mind meld when it comes to the broadcast brain, trying to help out the youngins as they work their way forward. What was the coolest thing that you stumbled upon that wasn't in your notes initially? The coolest thing that you stumbled upon in game state that you didn't have in the Sandoval, the Sagrada Biblia de Sandoval going in? What piece of info or intel did you come up with that was like, man, I didn't know that, and you found that kind of out on the fly?
Well, I think I jumped the question, if you will. It would have been great for me to throw you these nuggets that I just threw at you, but it would be that type of stuff, that type of information where I get excited about it too, because you start thinking like, oh man, that's how curious is that? How bizarre is that? It's so, a minor example I could think of is with the Australia-Paraguay game, the Australian manager, Tony Popovich, he retired against Paraguay, scored his 8th goal against Paraguay in 2006, and he was facing them in this World Cup. And before, after rather, I jumped into that nugget where I'm like, oh man, and he's managing against them tonight. He had actually gone on press conference after and said that he thought it was going to be a very special game for him because he had scored his last game and he had for Australia in 2006 against Paraguay. The Iran-Egypt game was huge for me because I invite you and anybody that wants to check out the Instagram profile. It's just been unbelievable. With Egypt, it was not funny, but it was interesting because my name is Ramses, so the community was going nuts. Where are you from, Ramses? Are you Egyptian? I mean, Ramses calling Egypt, and of course, I went on to explain that I wasn't, but they thought it was the community thought it was the coolest thing. The Iran community was also just so excited that match, and really style. You know the way I call games. It's really a high rhythm, high passion, high energy style. And it doesn't matter if it's TA, Mexican American, one of ours, uno de los nuestros, which is sold a lot in our network, which is fine and it's true. Colombia, Ecuador, Uruguay, you name it, right? Or it's Iraq, Egypt, Iran, or Australia, or South Africa, which I got a ton of love for as well. And with Iran and Egypt, though, going back, they had never made the next stage of the group stage. So that game in Seattle was absolutely nuts, dramatic. I got to tell you, right now, I'm putting that call my most special calls because of what it meant and because of the finish. I had a crazy 92nd minute goal call. It's one of those situations as a play-by-play announcer, too, because I get asked that a lot. You went absolutely crazy on that call, and the goal was disallowed. Well, yeah, but, Marciniak, the very, very good Polish, I think the ball near the 92nd minute, I'm doing my thing. It's not called off until after the 95th minute. So, if I'm averaging a minute on my goal call, that's completely done. That's completely gone. As an example, yesterday in Croatia's goal against Portugal, one of them, or even Cristiano Ronaldo's goal, you see that's called quickly. So the play-by-play could very, very quickly go into, oh, wait a minute, that won't go. It's not going to go. But this one, man, we got the call 3-4 minutes later. So I was just, and I had no idea either. We had a team as well of expert referees, and I was with Argentine former referee Martin Vasquez, and even he was, we're same mood, we're calling the game, and not until he sees a replay, or rather until camera goes into Marciniak and you see the Egyptian Hussam Hassan, the manager as well. He's sort of like going into the tablet, iPad, and looking at things. Then you start, but by then, my commentator's on his analysis of the goal. So that was pretty special, and running into that, having the ability that you knew that one of those countries, if not both, was going to make the next round for the first time ever, was going to be massive. Egypt had scored their first goal ever in a World Cup, against or rather, they had captured their first points ever in a World Cup against New Zealand. And to put that in context, this is a team who had made they had made the World Cup in capturing their first points in the 20 World Cup. So the way I sold that is 96 years later, after Egypt's first World Cup appearance, 96 years, man, they get their first 3 points. So it's crazy storylines. The rumors that I mentioned to you as well, like the Turkey having the fastest goal in history. 86. So during that broadcast, I mentioned the likes of Brazil, Germany, Spain, and Argentina. That doesn't surprise you. Italy was in that pool as well, but of course, because they missed the last 3 World Cups, it's South Korea after those 4 nations I named, as far as teams with the longest run qualifying to a World Cup. So again, you and I tell you that, you're probably going to be like, no, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Brazil, Argentina, yes, Spain, Germany. The 5th nation on that list was South Korea. So as you're prepping and you run into these, I had to double check all this, because I'm meticulous. So I'm double checking the 3-4 different outlets, and it's true. So it's fantastic stuff.
When it came to the 48 team field, were you sold on it?
Yeah, I was, because I'm a big believer in other nations getting a shot. I don't know about you, but for me, it was grateful to see, Jordan and the Cupdates story, and the Congo. With teams like Iran and Egypt, they made the World Cup before. Look at that. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And Curacao, man. I mean, Curacao what is it, 600,000 people or something in that country, and they put up a good 15, 20 minutes against Germany, and they draw against Ecuador, who was a power in CONMEBOL. Those are the stories I loved, and I actually think the World Cup may expand even more. I mean, we're at a stage right now where the way that it's been sort of enjoyed in the United States, and not in hydration breaks as a joke at the beginning of our call, of our interview. I'm getting into it with a lot of hydration breaks. And I think that's where the sports where they want. You know me, I love the NFL. I like the NBA, but I'm a big believer in timeouts. You know, you're sort of getting pounded on. What happens in the NBA if you go on a 0-8 run against you, and the manager needs to have a word. So for me, and I've noticed this in a lot of matches this World Cup, there's been a lot of teams that after the hydration break, particularly in the first half, and you're sort of going to that hydration break, and as a play-by-play, I'll say like, wow, you know, South Africa needed this. You know, South Korea is on them, and you know they're looking for the first better and start dating after the hydration break, and that's just an example. I've noticed that a lot. You know, the music comes to enjoy a little bit of what this means. I'm not sure that it's going to be implemented in every league and every big tournament, but for the World Cup, the way that it's been done, the new national anthem system, I love. It's a show. It's a show, and it needed to go there. That's where the World Cup needed to go. I don't know how long it's going to stay at 48 nations, but I would not be surprised if our next call here is 64. And you sort of do get, I've been thinking about this a lot, you get nations who would never have a shot. Whatever reason, you know, they're in a tough competition. They're never going to get an opportunity because they're in qualification methods. I mean, yeah, you get CONCACAF, South America. A lot of those nations have made the World Cup, and Venezuela is the only one that hasn't. But in Africa, in Asia, in Europe even, you know, you get a lot of these countries who are first World Cup, and it's special to see. Their fans, man, they enjoy it. And in a 32-team World Cup, and forget about it, 1994, we're still at 24. Whoa, that was going to be rough. Imagine that with all the countries in the world that play this beautiful game.
No, it's been pretty sweet, especially, you know, here in Atlanta at Atlanta Stadium. I put that in quotes. We got to see Uzbekistan. We got to see DR Congo. We got to see Haiti. We got to see Morocco. We got to see Cabo Verde. All of these new guys coming in the door. And for us, and for me specifically, since I'm a journo at heart, give me those stories 9 times a day where you can talk to Johan Vissa from Newcastle about his road and getting DR Congo and getting to find out what a coach like Sebastian de Saab can bring to the table. You get to see all these different storylines come in that field of 24, that field of 32 doesn't give you. I think they can handle 64. Just don't do like something where you have like a game in Dayton or something the Tuesday before the tournament where you're at 68 and you're bringing folks in. I think we can handle 64.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, we're going to get some messages for whoever is not loving the 48, but that's just me. And I think they can. I really do think they can. I mean, at that point in time, one of the challenges would be how do you allocate the tickets, you know, the tickets to the World Cup, because an example, you'd be getting all of South America into the World Cup. So it would become tough. It will become complicated. You mentioned the Congo story. Yeah, it's unbelievable, because another thing is, you're used to seeing the powers and you know, and I've mentioned this, Cameroon and Nigeria and these national and Togo and Mali, who, you know, at the younger division especially is a powerhouse. I mean, now we see what Ghana's doing, but I mean, look at that. It's sort of like the change of the guard as well, and the way that these cycles change the game. I was surprised in a 48 country World Cup, we didn't have Costa Rica, we didn't have Honduras, we didn't have El Salvador, we didn't have Guatemala. Guatemala also, they've never made a World Cup. It'd be wonderful to see the likes of them in Venezuela into one. No, we saw Curacao, Haiti, you know, these storylines. And if you were to ask me before, we're going to have a 48-team World Cup, and you want me to give you CONCACAF, well, I'm giving you, you know, USA, Mexico, going with the countries I just mentioned. So that should tell you, and that does tell you, that it's not as easy to get into a World Cup. Same thing with some of the European nations that got in, and some that so you look at all that, and you start looking at some of the teams that were still left out in all confederations.
Mm-hmm.
And
what's next for you? Do you get to catch your breath?
Yeah, we're catching our breath for the moment. We're in Miami. We have a couple of shows, constantly doing shows, recaps, and whatnot. Again, the coverage for Telemundo has been unbelievable, and they are really on a run close to 24/7. But you're just there, and if there's not a game, you could go into the Warm, phenomenal job with Peacock. I mean, to me, as a fan, the way you're just able to plug and play, and you're trying to watch a game and you're boom, and you want to replay a game and you're boom, and you want to watch a preview and you're there, boom. It's been fantastic. And for me, for example, I love watching my matches again to get better, hear how I can get better, here I can talk to my co-commentator and say, hey, listen, I think we could do this better. He'll do the same, or even to my sideline reporter. And we've had so many different sideline reporters. That's a challenge as well in the way that they operate, that they do their job. And so it helps me get better. So that platform has, and then after that, we have some flights set. Very soon, the public will know where we will be headed. More than likely into the next round, which is almost set, right, of 16, where we're going to have some unbelievable matches.
Yep, and full disclosure, down here on the big 55 off my left shoulder out of camera range, it has been locked in to the big red T the entire time. And for me, that is just how I get to do it. Where you and I differ, I can't listen to the sound of my own voice. If I've done something and, I have other people sit there and give me feedback, I grate. It's like I've lived it already. I can't stand the sound of my own voice. And so that's where I'm like, oh, I can't quite do that. I can't watch myself.
And you saying that does want to make me clear this up, though. Again, this is not me like, all right, let me listen to my beautiful voice. No, this is, and you're right, though, because when you make a mistake on the air or you think, not a mistake, but you could have done better. I can't believe I can think about that word, or I should have gone with this type of goal call. But, for me, especially in this big stage, and I do it with MLS on Apple TV as well, it helps me get better. And again, I'll text my co-commentator on the spot, and I'll say, hey, listen, man, I think we can do this better. I think we should do that better. Let the game breathe here. Go quicker here. Go fast pace here. So I hear you, though.
As always, my friend, it's great to see you. I'm glad we were able to catch you, which is kind of like catching a comet by the tail this time of year, considering the tournament that's going on. Next time, maybe we can talk a little CIF Southern Section. I don't know, whatever, because we got to talk Major League Soccer. We got to get that out of here too. Since you know where the garage door opener is, and you know where the key is under the mat, as I tell everybody, you can come in and crash anytime. It's like, I need to vent my spleen, Nelly. It's like, it's a Friday. I got to get something. I'm stuck here in the hotel. I need to come on. You're always welcome to come in, Ramses. It's great to see you, my friend. Keep crushing it and keep kicking. You know what? We'll see you around the corner.
You as well. It was great to catch up with you. A big shout out to the great Mr. Kirk Reynolds, who made it work, man, because he's the best, plugging us in the right moments. This was a perfect window, and I'm glad I was able to catch up with you. Let me know if you need anything at all, if we need to jump on top left. And listen, CONCACAF is rocking. So a lot of, Team USA, L3, and Canada talk to go.
You got it, brother. Be safe. We'll see you around the corner.
Take care.
There he goes, Ramses Sandoval, kicking ass and twice on Tuesday. It's always great to see him. And, yes, thanks to Gaucho, Kirk Reynolds at Major League Soccer, for making that happen. And, I mean, literally it was I'm going to break the fourth wall here a little bit. Kirk has a spreadsheet. And literally he is plugging and playing. And it's like, okay, so he can go here. He can do this. He can do this. He can do this. And early in the week, I try to catch up with him. And it's like, okay, this is your slot. That 10 o'clock, half hour, it's yours. Whatever you want to do. And he'll tell me usually Thursday, sometimes if he's, if he's working 9,000 miles an hour and trying to juggle as many chainsaws, then he'll let me know. And then we have the big ticket items where he just kind of, I tell him, it's like, look, we've done it for MLS kickoff. We've done it for beginning of the playoffs. We've done it for MLS Cup. On the Fridays before those big ticket items, we have the big kickoff shows. And he is insane and ridiculous in getting whomever can fit into those shows. And I tip my hat to him because he is amazingly crazy. And, we couldn't do any of this without the relationship we have at Major League Soccer and Kirk Reynolds, Gaucho, Kirk Reynolds. Couldn't do it without him, but it's always great to catch up with folks. And it is an open door policy. It literally is. It's like, with any of the folks that we see on Fridays or any other day of the week, any of our OGs and plus ones and guests or anything, since they know how to come into the show, all they literally need to do is either shoot me an email or come into the green room, and it'll be like, oh, somebody's here. And then that we just go from there. But no, it's always fun to catch up with our friends in and around the planet. And I'm hoping that Ramses, with all the miles, I hope he's getting miles and points out of the deal. Get miles and points, my friend, and maybe get some rest in about 3 weeks, because then it's time to get back at it for Major League Soccer. So, no, Ramses Sandoval, it's great to catch up with him. All right, let's get caught up on stuff. And let's see. So what have I not talked about? So I talked about that with USL. I don't know if you can hear this, but number one watchdog is in deep sleep right now. He's chasing something. So if you hear a bark, that's him chasing something on the air. So, yeah, he's down there. He's below the table, and he's chasing something. So we'll keep an eye out for that. All right, let's get into all the things that are going on around the planet. Let's finish up the review portion of World Cup, and we will get you into the preview portion of World Cup. So we played the Ramos goal. We played the post. We did not play the Oyarzabal goal, I don't believe. So this was part of that onslaught in the 3-0 coasting. Here's part of the Oyarzabal all the time, courtesy of our friends at Telemundo.
Cucurella, qué pelota metió, está habilitado. ¡Golazo! De España, señores, agoniza el partido. Este es el último clavo en el ataúd de Austria en esta Copa del Mundo.
Dormidos los centrales austríacos, se miran Danzo y Alaba. Ninguno de los dos lo acompañó.
And there you go. That was the one of the goals from Oyarzabal. Had 2 of the 3, and that lays it all out for you. Now, and there are a couple of pieces of news we've got to get into with our friend Ben Jacobs, but let me preview what is going on today and on the weekend in so hang on just a second. Let me do a little TV here. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. All right, so that. All right. So those are the games from yesterday. Let's get you into the games for today. So games for today, we mentioned. Let's see if the juice boxes have changed any since we talked about them in hour number 1. So World Championship 2026. Let's see if they changed. Egypt, yeah, this margin's gotten a little better, closer to more of a favorite. Egypt is now down to a plus 138. Australia is a plus 270. Draws a plus 195. 90-minute draw. Argentina is now at a minus 714. That has increased. Cabo Verde is staying at a plus 2,000. Draws a plus 750. Colombia is stayed at the minus 233. Ghana, though, has increased to a plus 800. And your draws at a plus 340 over 90 minutes. Look at the number. Look at your total. That's what I'm going to look at here with this one. I'm not anticipating a whole lot of goals. Over under 1.5 is a 294. Over under 2.5 is a plus 104. So it changes at 2.25 or at 2. 2 over under is a minus 182. Ghana has it their way. The under would be the play. Colombia has it their way. It's going to go north. So north is where it changes at 2.5 at a plus 104. So keep an eye on that. I tell you all this stuff, and I don't do juice boxes, but that's just my gut. So that was your look at the World Championships for today. Tomorrow, Morocco is a favorite at a minus 125. Canada's a plus 420. Draws a plus 250. France is a big favorite at a minus 500. Paraguay, by the way, is a plus 1,800. And the draw is a plus 600. And on Sunday, Brazil favored against Norway to -116. Norway is a +340, draws a +280. Mexico is a dog at the Azteca at a +220, draws the same. England's a +140. So obviously when we come on the morning's SDH AM weekend, we'll look at these numbers, but we'll keep an eye on them. But right now, Mexico's a dog at the Azteca Sunday night. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. All right. Now, I was going to mention, since we were on patrol here in the World Cup, let me play you some preview sound, and we will start with Tony Popovich. Tony Popovich, the head coach of Australia, leading into his match on the weekend, and he was in the press conference setting. Here's part of what he had to say.
Yeah, we feel great to be here. We know we've earned it. We deserve to be at this stage. We've shown that in our group matches, and I think we feel relaxed. We feel confident. We feel we're prepared, and we want to put our best performance together tomorrow. But how we're feeling right now, we feel good. We certainly respect our opponent. They're like us, wanting to win their first knockout game. So it will be a special match, and we're delighted that we're at this stage, and we want to show once more Australian football on the world stage.
Tony Popovich, the head coach of the Matildas, and they're getting ready for their match on the weekend. And along those same lines, Christian Jack, who would like to be busier than he's been, finally was able to grab a couple of players, because in the 3 days that they've been at camp in Houston, Texas, they really haven't had a whole lot of opportunities to catch up with folks. So they finally did get the chance, and here is KJ's report of touch and base leading into the matchup on the weekend, where Canada is a dog, courtesy of our friends at One Soccer.
What about Alphonso Davies? Trained in full today and looked really good. Seemingly still on a minutes restriction, but performed really well against South Africa. I asked Defougerol and Segura the difference he made when he came on the pitch.
I think it was clear when he came in that South Africa respected us a lot more, and they were sending 2-3 players to help. So obviously with a player like Alphonso, his speed, his understanding of the game, and his quality, that it's a big boost for us, and I think also it puts the opponent under a little bit more stress and trying to figure out how to deal with that.
I think everyone saw it when he came on, straight away created a chance for us, and yeah, it was nice to see him. We obviously haven't seen him in a Canada jersey for over a year, so him coming on, the crowd was loving it as well, so that pushed us as well, and yeah, I think helped us close out the game and get that winner.
And that's courtesy of our friends at One Soccer. And that's your Canada preview, getting you ready for their matchup once again. They're a dog. And we'll see what preps continue to be, the MD-1s. And we'll have that for you tomorrow morning. 9:05, SDH AM Saturday, probably a power hour. And then SDH AM Sunday, 9:05, probably another power hour to get you ready for Mexico and England. And Thomas Tuchel is taking every precaution humanly possible to make sure that the team is prepared and as prepared as they can be. Apparently, they're coming in late. They're not spending a whole lot of time there, so they don't have to acclimate to elevation. But there is going to be apparently either an armed perimeter or a gated perimeter or both around the hotel. They're keeping the location of the hotel a secret. They are concerned about spying. They're concerned about the stealing of information. They are concerned about what happened with Ecuador with the fireworks outside the team hotel. They are going to be offering things like sleep aids and or noise-canceling headphones to players so they can get their rest on Saturday night heading into the matchup on Sunday. Sunday night as they're heading back to base camp, they might need it then, but they're taking every possible eventuality of what they could think of that could go wrong. And they're going to be trying to take care of all of that and mitigate any kind of outside interference or outside peering over shoulders, that kind of stuff. So this is going to be about as, how do we phrase? This is going to be about as cloak and dagger as it gets from Thomas Tuchel and the staff to make sure that England is as prepared as they can be and as rested as they can be getting ready for Sunday night at the Azteca. So, yes, definitely keeping an eye on that. Yikes. mentioning everything else that is going on. According to Transfer News Live and a lot of other folks, things with Senegal are not going well. And the reports, and once again, Transfer News Live, among other places. And this comes from Sport News Africa. Several Federation officials spent their stay focused on everything but football, with claims of gala evenings, vintage bottles of alcohol, expensive gifts, lavish spending, and, quote, female company, end quote. Papa Chow signed his contract just 5 hours before the match against Norway, was even considering not taking his place on the bench at first. Some officials allegedly invited friends and content creators to join the delegation. Players looked on in disbelief at what was happening. Hotel staff complained about the behavior of several members of the Senegalese delegation, and some players left to fend for themselves, ordered fast food, and even left the hotel without supervision. So it does not sound great. Bonus payments were only resolved after delays, according to other folks, according to L'Equipe, with their stories. Friendly match was only arranged after the team arrived in the U.S. just 3 weeks before facing France, despite most teams trying to minimize their time there. A second video analyst was brought into the setup midway through the tournament. No scout was sent to watch Norway in their opening match before Senegal faced them. Mamadou Sarr was sent to the pre-match press conference before the Belgium game, despite not playing a single minute all tournament. And the decision to start Khalid Koulibaly ahead of Mamadou Sarr has raised eyebrows. Literally 6 hours before the match, Senegal did not have a coach. And so Sport News Africa is piecing together a series about what they refer to, according to Romain Molina, as the toxic atmosphere within the Lions camp. Chow did not have a contract and was under pressure from the federation. Without a coach 6 hours before the Norway match. And then Hervé Renard apparently was, a part of the thoughts there as well. Reminiscent of the tensions, departure for training in the U.S. Initial revelations from Sport News Africa after the match against France, particularly regarding the players' diet, the coach's contract, and lifestyle of certain FSF members in the U.S. President's office was displeased. They tasked the president's advisor with rectifying the situation to restore order and create a more conducive environment for the team's preparation. And this is a deep dive. Mansour Loom and Romain Molina from Sport News Africa. So that might be your deep dive in looking at everything going on with Senegal. Also on the board, I'm trying to see if there's anything else in the European theater. I did mention Carlos Queiroz and the matchup today. And like I said, if you do a Carlos Queiroz Colombia search, it'll come up with it. You'll come up with it. But the biggest quote, and I'm paraphrasing here, Queiroz is calling upon the federation to do the right thing. There's plenty of background there, so you can go ahead and chase after that. Also on the board now, let's catch up with our friend Ben Jacobs, who has been incredibly busy this morning, and follow Ben as you wish on whatever device that you feel closest to. Ben on Jurgen Klopp. Klopp has already, and this is from Ben Jacobs, Klopp has already agreed to the role, and his Red Bull contract has an exit clause for the Germany national team. Formal agreement with the DFB is now expected. Klopp ready to return to coaching, and the parties are now set to discuss terms and backroom staff. DFB leadership, and the quote coming, DFB leadership will now seek talks with Jurgen Klopp, who has already indicated general willingness to take on the role. That was the quote that we used earlier this morning. Enzo Fernandez, Chelsea's position remains no formal contact to date with Real Madrid. 120 million pounds evaluation for any club to strike a deal. No intention. Real Madrid said no intention of signing Enzo Fernandez. They literally issued a statement on the thing. Granit Xhaka on his future, not my job. to talk about a move to Chelsea. I have my management for that. I want to concentrate fully on the World Cup. Chelsea's pursuit of Xhaka is active despite Sunderland's not-for-sale position. Initially, it was an £8 million thought. We'll see where it goes from there. Mentioned Pierce Charles, Sheffield Wednesday, Manchester City close to re-signing the 20-year-old keeper. Charles would likely be sent out on loan. That is a combination of Alex Crook and on Ben Jacobs. So let's see. Klopp, Nagelsmann, NWSL, Kirosh. Okay, Kansas City Current. This came up yesterday, and Kansas City, Missouri, the city council approved the ordinance advancing CPKC's stadium expansion and riverfront infrastructure improvements process. It approved an ordinance that advances the next stage of development on the Missouri riverfront, including the expanded stadium to accommodate 18,000 and a new parking structure designed to improve accessibility, support continued growth along the riverfront. City of Kansas City and the Current have agreed to discuss a framework that uses new revenues created through Current Landing to fund core riverfront infrastructure. The agreement will unlock, according to the club, up to $800 million in additional private investment and accelerate the next phases of development. Quote from Angie and Chris Long. Mayor Quentin Lucas gave a statement. Expansion plan includes increasing the stadium from 11,500 to 18,000 to meet growing demand, developing core riverfront infrastructure, and constructing a multi-level parking structure that will serve fans, visitors, residents, and the broader downtown community year-round. Improvements will support not only KC Current matches, but concerts, community events, local businesses, future international competitions. In aggregate, according to the club, including having already invested more than $350 million of private capital, the total overall investment in the vision now equates to over $1.4 billion this decade. Quote from Port KC president and CEO John Stevens. Quote from Jessica Berman. So Kansas City Current looks like they got the okie doke to move forward. And the live, work, play environment that is anticipated on the riverfront looks like it is off and running. And so it looks like the stadium on the riverfront might be going from 11,500 to 18,000 over the next couple of years. So we'll find out what happens there as that continues to go. So we talked to them about that. So I'm literally looking at all my lists. Vitor Pereira out at Nottingham Forest. And Gimme Sport and Ben Jacobs are saying that Oliver Glasner might be moving into that position. Although, take it at your own peril considering Evangelinas Marinakis. But it gives Glasner a chance to stay in the Premier League, but it also gives an opportunity for Glasner to create, hopefully, and for Evangelinas Marinakis to listen. So we'll find out. We'll find out what happens there with all of those. Your Botafogo update, and yes, it is important. Botafogo had a couple of things happen that we need to keep an eye on, and they involve GDA Luma. If I could spell Botafogo, not Botafog, which might be a hashtag for them. And checking the latest. According to Footmai or Menino Foot, John Texter, and this is coming from, Itatiaia Esporte. And this is, once again, another Brazilian source. So, Brazilian-sourced information. John Texter says Botafogo will enter a very scary period and endorses players leaving. Quote, "We're about to enter a very scary period. You know, what do you do with the squad? The World Cup break's almost over. We have big decisions to make. Our key players, some might want to leave, especially with all this turmoil. If I were a Botafogo player and I'm seeing the SAF founder who put this project together, put this team together, with which we won all these titles, if I were seeing that happen, that the love of culture of Botafogo, which brought those victories, were being dismantled by the social club, I'd want to leave." So Texter appears to be giving the impression that, it's like, if I can't be there, then we'll go ahead and take the whole thing down with them. So that seems to be at least the early figures on that. There was a discussion about GDA Luma and Botafogo. So let me get away from the Botafog, and then that way I can let you know what was found. So it was Canal, or was it Canal do Mané? Yeah, okay. So Canal do Manel Botafogo. And he has, let's see, so he drops the statement. And so yesterday, the Canal de Manel Botafogo. Texters last, and this is a chain. And by the way, Canal de Manel has 25,000 followers, and we'll circle back through Globo as well. Texter's last breath at 100 million euro. Football leaks. 100 million euro, 2 loans of 50 plus. Tried to inject as a first name, and it's Kia Jarabchian. We've known about Jarabchian for a while. So Texter single-handedly approved 100 million in the minutes without the social counsel and without the, and this is translated. 50 million would turn into SAF shares after the judicial recovery. In practice, buying the club with debt. Social counsel blocked it. Justice upheld the dismissal. Jarabchian has a history, and it was 115 million Brazilian currency for Corinthians back in 2005. Then you had an investigation and relegation, etc. Texter's taking legal action in the U.S., United Kingdom, Brazil to prove that he still holds 90% of the SAF. On the other side, GDA Luma has a binding contract and 14 million US already invested. So now this is coming to a bit of a crossroads involving GDA Luma and AMS FJB. Okay, so Anderson Mata, with what he was coming through with his information. Let me see if I can, and this goes back. Let me go latest here. So Anderson Mata has been discussing things over the last handful of days as well. Let's go to Globo and let you know what Globo has as a part of this. By the way, Botafogo went back to 6 punishments. They got a new transfer ban. So Almada was taken off the books. Then they added a 6th. So they went down to 5. Yeah, you went down to 5, and then you ended up with 6 after Almada got taken off the books. So let's see if we have. All right, so the Botafogo storylines from GE Globo. Let's see if we have any kind of an update. 5 players training separately from the rest of the squad. Okay, so Leticia Marquez, 41 minutes ago. The sale of Botafogo has entered its final stages, close to being finalized, the agreement nearing completion. GDA made their first investment. Gabriel de Alba's company deposited $14 million, 14 1/3, to help the club cover immediate expenses, provide some breathing room for the month. Globo is reporting the amount is actually almost half the value of the first investment planned. Initially, it was supposed to be 25 after the sale was finalized. Sale wasn't finalized before July expenses. GDA Luma advanced part of the amount, and it will be 105 million Brazilian currency in installments over the years. Funds to pay athletes' image rights, July salaries, which are due in 2 days, the severance indemnity fund deposits, still outstanding debts, athletes regarding image rights payments and were in arrears and are included in the judicial reorganization plan. Reps of GDA and Cork Gully, the restructuring firm, as the administrator of Eagle Bidco. Final stages of transferring 90% of the shares to Botafogo. Transfer 90% of the shares of Botafogo. Now you have to pay for legal fees. Agreement stipulates that GDA Luma will assume the shares and consequently the debt, estimated at nearly $3 billion in Brazilian currency. Therefore, will not pay any amount to Eagle, similar to what the sale of Lyon to Michel Kang was. Also a provision for GDA Luma to amortize a portion of the debt with the association. So that's your Botafogo news. Gabriel Peck looks like he might be heading to Cruzeiro from LAG. Nothing official, I don't believe, out of LAG yet. I haven't seen anything this morning, but it was it was discussed that Gabriel Peck would be leaving LA Galaxy and going to Cruzeiro. Keep an eye on that too. Looking at, let's see, all the transfers. I'm trying to see if we have a transfer watch or anything. Saturday Showdown. We mentioned Danny Pereira, Mauricio Cuevas we mentioned. So Cuevas out to Santos Laguna. Wilson Harris assigned by New England Revolution. Crew getting Andres Herrera from River Plate. Sporting Kansas City getting defender Moises Mosquera. And the Gabriel Peck is out there in the ether. It is not completed as of yet, and the club has made no official notice. So keep an eye. So Cuevas out, and it looks like Peck might be out. So we'll see what LAG does in return with all of those. Let me see. I'm checking my checklist here before we get out of here for a Friday. Let's check anything domestic, and if there's anything that I might have missed domestically, catch up with our friend Tommy Scoops, and then there's the old Falarin Balogun news. Danny Pereira, we mentioned Danny Pereira. Then, the Diego Luna. Keep an eye on Diego Luna. RSL rejected a bid of Monterrey's for Diego Luna in the region of $3.5 million. Well below RSL's evaluation. The club still want to keep him. 18 caps for the MNT, and we will keep an eye on that. Bosnia and the U.S. $9 million on Telemundo, 24.3 on Big FOX. Combined 30 million viewers. One of the most watched U.S. TV events of the year. No surprise. Cruzeiro has reached an agreement overnight on Galaxy with Gabriel Peck. It would be $12 million and $1.5 million in add-ons. This comes from Tenorio and Bogert. Peck should be traveling in the next couple of days to formalize it. So Mendez, once again, Columbus Crew and Real Sociedad is going to be ADP. I think that's going to do it. So thanks to Ramses Sandoval. Thanks to our buddy Ali Howorth. Thanks to Nino Torres. And thanks to y'all. It's been another great week here on SDH AM. And because it is the end of the week, it means one thing and one thing only. And it is our way to say goodbye to you, but only until Atlanta Soccer tonight with Jason and everybody. And we will be with you tonight. We'll be back with you tomorrow in about less than 22 hours to talk about it here on SDH AM Saturday. So from all of us here to all of you there, thanks for hanging out with us all week long and all of our coverage of the World Cup. I got to find it. I got to find the goodbye. Where is it? Where is it? No, not there. Not there. Here we go. So enjoy. We'll see you in a bit.
The keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress that